Now, the Presidential Livestock Reform Committee has proposed that a combination of ranching and open grazing could be the most viable solution to the farmer-herder crisis in Nigeria. Co-chairman of the committee, that's Professor Ajayi, disclosed this after presenting an Inception report on livestock reforms. Jega emphasized that while the federal government promotes long-term objectives for intensive livestock production, the immediate recommendations include accommodating both ranching and open grazing for a defined period. Professor Jega noted that the report suggests a 10-year implementation timeline to achieve incremental positive changes in the livestock sector and aims to transition gradually from extensive pastoralism. Joining us is Professor John Ajayi, and he'll be discussing the recommendations of the Jega Committee on the herder-farmer conflict and how far it could go in resolving the crisis. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to Newsday. All right, Professor, I'll get straight into it. Do confirm that you can hear me loud and clear.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Great to have you. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with this, the window that has been given to implement what is supposed to be the gradual shift from extensive pastoralism. 10 years. Now, in the justification for this, of course, they do say that the lifestyle of herders, of course, is ingrained in the system. But the question is, 10 years may be fair for the herders, but is it fair for the farmers and for those whose land is being used in an unsustainable way and oftentimes without consent by these herders? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, let me first of all start by applauding the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for taking a step towards ameliorating or putting this farmer-herder crisis to a stop by constituting the Livestock Reforms Implementation Committee. That alone shows that, yes, the president is committed. However, in one of the recommendations made by the committee, that open grazing should be allowed to coexist with ranching for another period of 10 years appear not to be a solution to the farmer-herders crisis. I'll give you an example. In the local government where my own local government, Gwe West local government of Benue State, the armed herders have taken over more than half of this local government. This is a local government that has 15 council wards. And out of these 15 council wards, I can tell you, you can go and verify, that more than 9 council wards have now been taken over by armed herders. I want to tell you that just yesterday, it's less than 24 hours now, one of the farmers whose village has been run over by the armed herders, where he's taking refuge, decided that, he has to put food on the table for his family, decided to have a small rice farm just at the back of where he's staying. Yesterday afternoon, he went there on hearing that cattle were grazing on this rice farm, only to be killed on that place. Now tell me, if we are to allow open grazing to continue for another 10 years, what is going to be the fate of the locals whose farmland has been overtaken or taken over by these armed herders? That is the reason why this recommendation to allow open grazing to subsist, to continue for another 10 years with ranching may not be an immediate solution to the farmer-herders crisis.
All right, thank you for that, for giving us your insight on that, especially your very important question about what the fate of locals whose farmland has been taken over by grazers would be in a decade's time. Along with that, some critics argue that the committee's recommendations don't adequately address the root causes of the conflict, such as climate change and resource scarcity. I'm just wondering how you respond to that aspect of the criticism.
Yes, you see, this issue of climate change does not affect only the herders. It affects all farmers. And it affects every aspect of the national of the nation, not only Nigeria. Now, the issue, talking about climate change, there are supposed to be a lot of programs by the government to look at this. All right. So, if the issue of climate change has made it difficult for herders to get water and even water for their cattle in the far north where they operate, this has made them to keep moving southwards in search of greener pastures and water to feed their cattle. But in the course of their movement, they trample on other people's right. They ordinarily, if they are coming without arms, now one could say, okay, they could go into some kind of maybe discussion with the locals. Excuse me. But in the case where they are coming with arms, now it shows that they are not only for grazing, but maybe probably something else. Otherwise, if you are to come for grazing, normally these people, they come during the dry season when farmers must have harvested their crops, and then these people, the cattle graze on the chaffs. Now, on the onset of rainy season, they go back to where they have come from, or they came from. But this has not been the case. So the issue of climate change does not affect only cattle rearers. It affects all farmers, including crop farmers. So the justification that is because of climate change that is causing this might not be the main thing.
Right. Thank you so much for helping us navigate this topic in such a critical way. Because the next point I want to go to is that that was raised by this committee in their document and their recommendations, is of course that this pathway, this 10-year plan, is supposed to make livestock something that's currently performing very poorly and not contributing to the economy. It's supposed to turn livestock into a 33 trillion naira industry with this plan. But, my question to you is that this plan seems to be more of a political solution than it is an economic solution. Do you see any room for the livestock sector growing in its economic contributions, given the plan that has been laid out?
Yes, livestock can contribute to economic growth of the nation. But the way it is practiced now, if you look at it, India has the largest herd of cattle in the whole world, with over 307. There are about 307 million cattle. All right. Now, and you hardly hear stories of clashes between farmers and crop farmers and cattle rearers. Why is our own case different? Now, the world best global practice is ranching. And that is what India, countries like Mexico, the United States of America, UK, China, and even South Africa, come to Africa, they are practicing. And they are doing well in livestock production. And that is why the recommendation that livestock in Nigeria should transit from this archaic way of open grazing into ranching, where the livestock can be more harnessed as to improve the economic growth of Nigeria, other than this current practice of open grazing. With the open grazing system, I think Nigeria cannot get it right in livestock production to contribute to the GDP. But if ranching is adopted holistically, I think Nigeria will be better off. Now, talking about the reforms policy, given this 10 years we know that changes cannot take place spontaneously. It has to be in phases. But this window period of 10 years, appear not to be a solution. Because within these 10 years, if this open grazing is allowed to coexist with ranching, then, just like I said earlier, what would be the fate of the places where the farmers, the crop farmers that have been dislodged from their places, whose means of livelihood had been distorted and be completely taken, stopped? What would be their fate? As much as we want to promote livestock production, we must not forget the food production aspect, the crop production aspect of it. Because even if you want to eat food, you eat food with meat. You don't eat meat alone to sustain. You add food, other food crops to it. So we should not only look at the livestock production aspect, we should also look at the crop production as well. Now again, if you look at the issue of the livestock we're talking about, livestock does not entail cattle alone. We have piggery, we have goat, we have sheep there. So it should not only be about cattle alone. The piggery should be carried along, goat should be carried along, and then sheep farming should also be carried along. It should not only be about only cattle.
Well said. Now, when it comes to learning from potentially global or international examples, I'm wondering how this committee's recommendations align with or differ from conflict resolution strategies that have been implemented by other countries that also face pastoral conflicts.
Yeah, it's not about to say that the recommendation is not okay, but the window period of 10 years is the issue here now. Yes, the transition from livestock, from open grazing to full ranching can be implemented in phases, but bringing in 10 years appeared to be too much. And again, another question that will come to mind is that there are efforts to stop or to ban open grazing in Nigeria, giving room for ranching. Now, I know of states that have enacted laws to ban open grazing. But why are these laws, this state's law, not being implemented to the fullest? Why is it that some sections, people who are into open grazing are challenging the implementation of, or stopping implementation of this ban? The thing is that we are not saying that ranching should be taken up immediately, or open grazing should be stopped once. But then there should be other policies or laws to stop this indiscriminate open grazing that has put other crop farmers, put their other crop farmers' lives at danger, at the expense of maybe at risk. All right? Yes, other advanced countries that are into full ranching have other policies that may be probably transited from open grazing to ranching. But in the case of Nigeria, efforts at maybe stopping open grazing appear to be frustrated by a section or some people who are into this cattle rearing. Why is that so? And that put quite a lot of question around allowing this recommendation of open grazing to subsist for another 10 years. That is what the point we're talking about. Now, taking other recommendations, yes, there should be also thing, but for instance, maybe coming up with a national law banning open grazing, now giving conditions to those who are into cattle rearing, that, okay, within this period, but not to 10 years, make sure that you transit from this unrestricted or, let me call it indiscriminate open grazing into ranching and get your cattle ranch so that we can get the best of livestock production in Nigeria. Yes, other countries that are into full ranching, yes, they had this, what do you call it, peace resolution, or conflict and peace resolution, yeah. But then, we should do it in consideration of the crop farmers as well. Not only looking at the cattle rearers alone in this regard.
Right. Professor Ajayi, and you just touched on my question there, which is all around implementation,
yes.
And the various parts, moving pieces around it. But my question is more focused on the political will. I think we're very good at coming up with fantastic plans and, fantastic ideas, but often we lack the will to implement. Given that some of the challenges that you've addressed are surmountable, do you think the political will exists for us to tackle this crisis head on?
That is the reason why I said there is no political will. Now, as I gave you an example of some states that have enacted a law to ban open grazing. If there's political will, then this states that have enacted this law, this law will be respected in those states. But given the fact that even though some states have come up with laws and process, okay, like let's talk about Benue State. In 2018, Benue State House of Assembly enacted a law which was passing, a bill which was passing to law that open grazing should be stopped in the state. And it wasn't just that. The law also made provision for the establishment of ranches. And those who want to do cattle business were given a period of time to establish ranches and move their cattle into the ranches. But then this law, as we're talking about Benue State, this law is not implemented. This law is not respected. Apart from Benue State, Ekiti State also established such a law, enacted such a law before Benue State. I'm aware Taraba State also has such a law in place. Just going back to the issue of political will, there's no political will for us to address this issue. And that is why this issue has continued to linger. If there's political will, then the armed herders who go to places, and maybe places that are not theirs, and then send away the aborigines to take over their lands, the federal government or state government should have ways of okay, no, you people are not doing the right thing. There's a law. If you want to practice or apply your trade, do not allow your trade to affect another person's trade. But just like you pointed out, there is no political will. Once there's political will, then all this will be done. How are we sure that even this issue of this recommendation that the two systems should coexist for 10 years, how are we sure that after 10 years we'll get away from this problem? Because the issue now is that of political will.
And on that note, we'd like to thank you for this insightful discussion that we've had with you, Professor John Ajayi, lecturer at Taraba State University. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday.